Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to my official full breakdown of the upcoming season of Go Battle League. Today, I'm going to be going through in detail talking about the changes that we can expect in the new season, doing a bunch of simulations on my local copy of PvPoke, and mainly talking about the Pokemon that I think will have high impact, and the Pokemon that I think might look good on paper but won't work out in practice. As always, these will be my best estimates and thoughts considering the information we have available to us now. So without further ado, let's take a look at the changes. First change we'll be taking a look at, obviously, is going to be the Ember change. Ember getting its energy generation increased. So Ember currently 3.5 and 3. We're expecting Ember to go to 3.5, 3.5. Let's take a look at what actually has Ember. Well, we have a few picks here, and quite a few of them actually have Incinerate. The good news is, if something has Incinerate, it's going to use Incinerate. We can go back to the moves here and just search by fire. Incinerate is an unbelievably cracked move. It's 4-4. Ember, we're assuming 3.5, 3.5. So Ember is basically going to be strictly worse in those scenarios. So anything that has Incinerate on this list, we can safely go ahead and disregard as not going to be actually using it, which honestly weeds out a lot of these. Then we're looking at like Charizard and Ninetales. Looks like Ember is legacy on Ninetales. So what we'll do here is we'll just duplicate this a few times, and then I can kind of make the adjustments from here. Like we'll do Shadow. We'll actually add our custom Ember, which should be the new Ember. Oh, it looks like I put it as Ember 2. And I'm assuming Psyshock will be preferred. But obviously we can adjust Psyshock as we go if we end up feeling that Overheat is better. But Psyshock's just a really sick move now. Okay. Let's see what we're looking at here. And okay, it looks like a very solid improvement here for the new Ember. Now Ember, getting a bit of an improvement here, picking up Annihilate, Shadow, Dusclops, Mandibuzz, Talonflame's a pretty nice get. As the Shadow, you are picking up some here, which is nice. Like you're again able to pick up the Annihilate matchup. So for Ember, the extra energy generation coming in clutch in terms of getting to more charge moves, but 20 and 25 still does not inspire a ton of confidence in my eyes. Let's take a look at the 2s. Again, improved, but nothing really leaping out at me. There is a positive overall average for the Shadow, but it's still a net negative in terms of the total matchups here. Let's take a look at zeros, and we can also look at Overheat too. Zeros again, so it's definitely better. And I am willing to check Overheat as well. I know Overheat is obviously a very good move. It looks like, at least in the zeros, Overheat is simming way better for the regular. So that's a bit of good information to have, because obviously Overheat's a really good move. In the 1s, you're negative, but it's a lot closer. So even though Psyshock's a really, really good move, stab Overheat pretty hard to beat. So I think actually the triple fire moveset on Ninetales, which is a bit of a surprise to me, just because I was expecting Psyshock to perform a little better, but Overheat's a cracked move. Overheat's definitely a cracked move. So personally, I think Ninetales, I mean, it was pretty unusable the past few seasons. I think it'll actually go into usable territory. I don't think it's going to be a crazy good mon, but it looks pretty usable, which is nice. The other one that I want to take a look at is going to be Charizard. So we'll check regular, and we'll be able to check the Shadow too. Alright, zeros, definitely improved, but Zard was never really a zeros merchant. Like Ember compared to Wing Attack, Ember is more fast move pressure than Wing Attack ever had, but obviously it offers less coverage, and it has less energy generation. Shadow Zard, positive in the 1s though, is very cool to see. And that's obviously with the new Ember. So Shadow Charizard positive in the 1s, a ton of pickups. You're actually beating Charge Bug in the ones, which is pretty cool to see. Corsola, Dugong. Obviously, I imagine a lot of these are aided with a bait, but still cool to see. And let's take a look at the two. Oh my goodness, the twos. So Shadow Zard could play out a bit like it used to. I don't think it's going to be quite to those heights, but that 2 shield is pretty sick. I imagine that is with baiting on. I assume if you turn baiting off, the 2 still look solid because of how strong Ember is. You're still positive straight Dragon Claw. That's actually really good information to have, just with no baits at all. So I think Charizard's going to be kind of cool. Its pacing is slower than it was. That is the drawback here. But it has more fast move pressure. So if you're able to get it up a little bit of energy, things could get very fun. Like specifically with the Shadow, if we go to the ones, let's take a look at what its win rate is here. 24 and 21. What if we give it like 1 Ember head start? So this is the amount of turns advantage. We give it a 1 Ember head start. We go to 25 and 20. A 2 Ember head start. That's what I had looked up ahead of time. I couldn't remember if it was 1 or 2. You are suddenly winning 2/3 of your matches up 2 Embers. So I think it's going to be a Pokemon that's really going to thrive with an energy advantage. But I also think that if you're down energy, that could potentially end up proving very uncomfortable. Opponent. Yeah, and if the opponent's a little bit up, suddenly your Charizard is way worse. So this is definitely going to be an energy management mon, where if you're able to get the energy advantage, it's going to be sick. But if your opponent is the one who gets the energy advantage, then things could get a little bit suspect. So I think Shadow Charizard, it should be much improved. It also offers a bug resistance, which I think is going to be a massive key in this meta. So I think Shadow Charizard, it's looking to be a pretty playable mon. I think as a ceiling, we're talking anti-meta just due to the lack of pacing, but should still be fun. The next change we'll be taking a look at is Bug Bite. Anytime you see a 1-turn fast move getting an adjustment, you should pay an incredible amount of attention. And that's obviously going to be because if something like a 5-turn move like Incinerate gets 1 extra damage, that's 1 extra base damage over 5 turns. A 1-turn move getting an increase of 1 base damage means 5 base damage increase over 5 turns. So this is a huge update. And it's to Bug, a typing that has typically been very underutilized, and it's very poor offensively due to the fact that it really doesn't hit a lot. Let's take a look at what has Bug Bite here. We're looking at Araquanid, Charjabug, Leavanny, Low-Kicks, Beedrill, Wormadam Trash, Forretress. Forretress? You're going to want a Forretress. Some of this, I have done some of the work ahead of time, so this one I have looked into pretty extensively. For Forretress, initially, we'll be taking a look at 2 movesets. We'll be taking a look at Rock Tomb Sand Tomb and Rock Tomb Earthquake, all with the regular Forretress. And I will have to adjust it, so they do have the new Bug Bite. I think I put it as Bug Bite 1. Some of them I put as 1, some of them I put as 2. I was not the greatest when it came to consistency on that, but we're zeros on everything. Perfect. Now we can sim, and welcome to the Zero Shields. Forretress with Rock Tomb Sand Tomb, 27 wins, 18 losses, a 520 average. With Rock Tomb Earthquake in the zeros, we're at 30 wins, 14 losses. That's over a 2/3 win rate. So right off the bat, this is incredibly impactful. Bug Bite, going to be a lot more effective than it has been in the past. Bug Bite doing extra damage, and with Forretress specifically, you're able to outlast things by debuffing them with Rock Tomb. So Forretress immediately looks like an incredibly good Pokemon in the new season. Let's go to the ones. And in the ones, the Rock Tomb Sand Tomb Forretress is actually outperforming. But look at these wins. You're beating Jumpluff. Obviously, you're destroying Malamar. You're beating Credilli, something Forretress never could do. you beat Claydol, you beat Carbink as a Bug Bite user, you beat Morpeko, you beat Quagsire, and you're beating Sableye. And the main things that you are now suddenly losing are matchups where, more often than not, your Bug Bites are going to be resisted. And this is the Rock Tomb Earthquake set, which still performs very well, but slightly underperforms Rock Tomb Sand Tomb. Let's take it to the 2 shield. And in the 2 shield, okay, let's talk about it. The elephant in the room is the 34-11 win rate for Bug Bite, Rock Tomb, Sand Tomb. This thing looks on paper to be devastatingly effective at forcing alignment. Just non-stop debuffs, either debuffing your opponent's attack or debuffing your opponent's defense with Rock Tomb or Sand Tomb respectively, depending on what's going to make the matchup easier for you. The only matchups where it's really struggling are like Skeleturge, Talonflame, where it's just not getting to a move in the 2s. Primeape, the Shadow Marowak looks like it's very, very close. Jellicent, Emolga, which isn't really a Mon. Corviknight, although you can actually beat Corviknight. If we pull this up, why is Corviknight losing that? And I believe if you go a high rank Forretress, you can actually win the 1s versus Corviknight as a Bug Bite user into a Steel Flyer. Make that make sense. I can't. I've looked at this again and again, and I can't make it make sense. That's just absurd. Why is this allowed? How are you a Bug Bite user beating a Steel Flying type in the 0s and the 1s? Forretress is absolutely disgusting next season. It looks so strong. Even if you're on Rock Tomb Quake, it's still 30 and 15 in the 2s, which is still very playable. Personally, I'm going to try Rock Tomb Sand Tomb at first. We'll see if I end up missing the damage of Earthquake. But I think the pacing on Sand Tomb could potentially be nice. And if you're able to debuff opponents' defenses, then you may be able to reach certain Bug Bite breakpoints, which are very impactful on something with a 1-turn move. Very similar vibes to like Shadow Malamar when people were thinking about looking at high attack weights to try and get a Star Wave breakpoint on Talonflame. Very similar thing, but you can kind of manually do that with Sand Tomb. So it's a bit of an interesting mod. It looks incredible. It looks absolutely absurd. Let's take a look at the Shadow here before we take a look at Araquanid. I'm going to have to manually re-add the new Bug Bite here. But for the sake of fairness, this Pokemon has a Shadow. So let's take a look at the Shadow. And we'll do Rock Tomb Earthquake. We'll go back to the 0s. Let's take a look. In the 0s, the Shadow again has an incredible 0s win rate here. Well, the double nuke, at the very least, has an incredible 0s win rate. And you're picking up a lot of matchups here in the 0s. Like, you were actually able to beat Clodsire, which is quite nice. Beating Credilli in 0s. Jumpluff, Malamar. Like, there's a lot of really nice gets. Let's take a look at the 1s. In the 1s, again, this thing just looks incredible. If you end up with the double tomb set, has a slightly higher average, but slightly worse win rate than the nukes set of Rock Tomb and Earthquake. Beating Dusclops as a Bug Bite user feels criminal. Like, I know Dusclops does no damage, but that feels criminal. My goodness. And let's take a look at the 2s. And the 2s, again, incredible. Incredible. Look at all these new wins it's picking up. Shadow Marowak, Morpeko, Claydol, Credilli, Drapion. These are all the Mons that have been seeing play. And it feels like almost everything that was seeing play now just loses to Forretress. So Forretress, to me, looks to be, on day 1, a top meta threat. This thing looks incredible, whether you have the regular or the Shadow. I'm going to try the regular first, but obviously with the Shadow, there may be some interesting Bug Bite breakpoints. That's one thing that I'll have to do a bit more research on, is with a Sand Tomb, is the regular or the Shadow benefiting more in terms of Bug Bite breakpoints? That's a tongue twister right there. Bug Bite breakpoints, my goodness. But yes, Forretress looks incredible. I would absolutely build it if you don't have one yet. Let's take a look at Araquanid. Araquanid is still probably going to suffer from one of the issues that it already had, which is that its charge moves have really bad synergy with each other. Its charge moves, it appears you actually can't see it on your screen here. They're Bubble Beam, Bug Buzz, Mirror Coat, and Water Pulse. Ideally, Araquanid would love to use Water Pulse. Water Pulse is a really nice coverage move to have as a bug, but then you're in an awkward spot. Water Pulse, Bug Buzz, you just have really bad pacing. Water Pulse, Bubble Beam, you have no coverage, and Mirror Coat is unusable trash. In the zeros are not going to be where Araquanid's strength is, but still improved. As a bug type, you're picking up Blastoise. That's kind of cool. Picking up Shadow Marowak. Annihilate zeros is a crazy get if you end up running Water Pulse. Primeape, picking up Talonflame, but you are dropping some of these matchups where you really wanted the Bug Buzz damage. So we move to the ones here. Bubble Beam Water Pulse is the standout here at 25 wins, 20 losses. Again, Shadow Annihilate as a pickup. Charge-a-Bug, that is an insane pickup. Discharge is actually so bad, it's insane. Diggersby, Primeape, Skeleturge. And if you run the Bug Buzz, Bubble Beam, then you're picking up Diggersby and Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is a cool get, but I imagine that Mandibuzz is on Snarl, and it is. And now let's take a look at the twos. In the twos, the twos are where Araquanid is going to look at its strongest. We have 28 and 17, 29 and 16 for Water Pulse and Bubble Beam. Whereas if we turn baiting off for Araquanid, your win rate is looking a lot more normal if you can't bait. So I think Araquanid, it definitely looks to be improved. It should be more playable. I think that in a meta environment where Forretress exists, and Forretress is a Bug Bite user that resists Bug Bite, that has Rock Tomb, I don't know if there's going to be an immense amount of play for Araquanid. I think Araquanid could be a breaker for some teams, but I do think it's very clearly a step below Forretress, as Forretress just has a significantly better moveset. Looked into Charge-a-Bug, Leavanny, Low Kicks, and some of the others, and they weren't really standing out much. What I do want to take a look at very briefly here is going to be Ledian. Ledian, one of my favorite Pokemon. Currently runs Counter. Obviously going to be on the new Bug Bite. We'll stick with the Aerial Ace Dynamic Punch to start with and just see how we're looking here. So that's a huge improvement in the zeros. In the zeros, look at all these new wins. In exchange for dropping Lapras, you're picking up a ton of new stuff. You're barely positive in terms of win rate. You're negative in terms of the overall average, which usually means that when you lose, you're losing. Like that Galarian Weezing matchup. We can take a look at the ones as well. And the ones, Ledian 26 and 19, so it's picking up a huge amount of one shield win, and it has no drops, so this is a strict upgrade. But again, the average at 503, you are picking up a lot of new wins, but your bad matchups are staying bad, which is really good information to have. So it's going to be much improved, but it's not going to have a lot of flexibility as a mon. And in the 2 shield, this is where the pacing catches up with it a little bit, as it's 20 and 25. Average of 495, but its average no matter what was around 500. So even though it lost a bunch of wins, obviously it picks up a bunch of new things, but there are matchups where it's a bit uncomfortable, but it definitely feels like a feast or famine Pokemon. Like, could someone use it and have results? Also, look at how close that Azumarill matchup is. How is it almost beating Azumarill? That's ridiculous. Bug Bite is crazy. Bug Bite is absolutely unreal. But I do think that this is, it's more of an RPS choice just because of its defensive typing. Bug Flying is one of the worst defensive typings you could have. If you could like build a bad defensive typing in a lab, it would be Bug Flying. So Ledian should be much improved. I still don't think it breaks into the meta in a meaningful way, but if there's a limited meta, this thing could absolutely shred because it has a huge amount of bulk. Let's take a look at the stats. 2200 stat product. That's really, really bulky. Let's take a look. Azumarill 2387. So not quite to Azumarill levels of bulk, but pretty close. 200 more than Blastoise. So it has a ton of bulk. It now has a good fast move, which it's been waiting for forever. Its defensive typing is still its greatest sin, but overall, Ledian does look much improved. The next update we'll be taking a look at is Fury Cutter. Fury Cutter going from 2 damage to 3. Gligar has Fury Cutter. Lurantis, Samurott, Golisopod. We're going to start with Golisopod. I am so incredibly excited for Golisopod. There are some pretty nice pickups here. Picking up Credilli, Drapion, Furret, opposing Golisopod, which obviously will be on Fury Cutter, Lapras, and Guzzlord. Let's take a look at the ones. The ones, you now pick up Azumarill. Your fast move went from neutral to resisted. And you're picking up Azumarill. That's incredible. And as we see here, Shadow Claw, 4 damage over 2 turns. Your resisted Fury Cutter next season is 2 damage per 1 turn. And that means that you're actually dealing to Azumarill the same amount of damage per turn. Somehow the Azumarill matchup gets better, and obviously we see Blastoise, that matchup improving drastically from 4 every 2 turns to 3 every 1 turn. That is pretty cool. You're picking up Serp now, which was always a bit of an uncomfortable matchup. The Drapion one is a really good get because Golisopod always struggled in that matchup outside of the Zeros, so that's a really clutch pickup here. Alright, and let's take a look at the 2s. The 2s, again, a big improvement in your overall average, an improvement in the win rate as well. The Morpeko win is a pretty cool one. You're not even throwing, you're Fury Cuttering down. Oh my goodness. That is... that is top tier. That is top tier. You can just Fury Cutter down. Fury Cutter is a cracked move now. Fury Cutter is unbelievable. I would say poor Morpeko, but I don't feel bad. And then the main difference there is the matchups that you're now losing are the matchups that there's a like 2 or 3 stage difference in effectiveness. I showed this earlier and I will show it again, but if you run like a very attack weighted Golisopod. Okay, there we go. You can make it so into Talonflame, instead of 1 damage per Fury Cutter, you can do 2. Now this matchup does mean that if you make that change in the 1 shield, you actually still maintain that Talonflame win. That's obviously a bit of niche tech. You have to go for a pretty solid attack stat on Golisopod to do so, but I think it's something that is definitely worth considering. So right off the bat, Golisopod, I know it's frail, but we saw the power of what it can do this season, and now it's just getting better with the Fury Cutter buff. So I'm incredibly excited to see what Golisopod can do. Another one I want to take a look at is Samurott. I'll probably take a look at Samurott, Gligar. So we'll take a look at Samurott. Samurott is very frail. 1740, not known for its bulk whatsoever. But getting a bit of extra fast move pressure can go a long way. And I'll throw the Shadow in here too. The Shadow is defaulting to Razor Shell. Razor Shell is a very mediocre attack. We're going to give it Mega Horn. Mega Horn, pretty sick move. Razor Shell, pretty bad move. And let's take a look. Okay. A slight improvement. You can actually beat Lapras now. As the Shadow, you're picking up a lot of new wins, but you're also dropping a lot of wins because Samurott's already very glassy. So in the Zeros, probably not going to favor the Shadow. In the 1s, you're seeing a pretty sizable increase here in terms of wins. A ton of pickups here. You're beating Azumarill. Hello? With entirely resistant moves. Bug Water Coverage Mons beating Azumarill is that fully wallet. Somehow we're seeing that back to back. You're picking up Credilli, which I imagine requires a bait. You're beating Drapion. You're beating Furret, Gastro. These are some nice pickups. These are some very nice pickups. And as the Shadow, you're picking up the Annihilates, Charge-a-Bug. Snarlmandibuzz isn't a real mon, but you're dropping Lapras. And I don't know if you want to drop Lapras, and dropping Claude as well. That's a bit unfortunate. Let's take it to the 2 shield and see what we're doing. In the 2s, a lot of pickups. That's where all of this extra Fury Cutter base damage really adds up over time. Like, we can take a look at the, these are all breakpoints. These are all matchups where you're getting more Fury Cutter damage. Like, the Azumarill matchup, you go from 1 to 2. Change from 1 to 2, you're doubling your fast move damage, and it's really, really helpful to get that. Let's go back to the matchups, though. You're again still underwater in terms of the average, but Samurott does look much improved, and we just continue to see more and more viable water types get added to the game, which I think is a really, really solid plus. Furret, Feraligatr, Gastrodon, Guzzlord, Lapras, more Pekko, because again, you can just Fury Cutter it down. Quagsire, you're a Fury Cutter user that beats Alolan Sandslash. Serperior, as a pure water type, that's a pretty sick win. So Samurott, again, looks very playable anti-meta. I don't think it's going to be a meta shaker by any means, but it does look pretty playable. Next, we'll take a look at Gligar. I know Dig was nerfed, where Dig is very, very bad. But I do want to take a look and see, with a Fury Cutter buff, is our good friend Gligar coming back? We'll sim the regular and the Shadow with the new Fury Cutter, and we'll take a look at the wins. Because we know Gligar, it has the typing and the stats to be a serious meta threat. Very bulk-oriented, ground flying is an absolutely busted typing. And Aerial Ace, it's a pretty solid move. Dig is terrible, though. Dig is very bad. If we go over to here and take a look at Dig, 70-50, ooh. That is unfortunate. That's tragic scenes for our good friend Gligar. And let's take a look right off the bat. From last season to this season, in the Zeros, a Diggersby and a Mandibuzz Zeros win. And for the Shadow, it's performing about the same. 2 things gained, 2 things lost. Now in the 1s, we're looking a lot better. 15 and 30, Gligar is trash currently. But the Shadow and the regular, the Shadow outperforms by having the better average, but they're both 24 and 21. Ariados, how are you losing Ariados as a ground flying type? My goodness. Credilli, Diggersby, regular Jumpluff, both Mandies, Primeape, Shadow Sableye. So these are some real wins you are picking up. I could also check Night Slash after this. So we'll play this out. Regular outperforming in the 2s here. Not by a ton, but I will also add a Shadow with Night Slash and the new Fury Cutter, just to satisfy my own curiosity. In the Zeros, looking quite a bit worse. Because obviously, in the Zeros, the thing you want to hit with Dig, you can no longer do that. Let's take a look at the 1s. In the 1s, a way higher overall average, but a similar win rate there. Let's take a look at the 2s. In the 2s, you have the highest overall average because you're just spamming out a lot of moves. So I think Night Slash might actually be a viable side grade here, just because Dig is so bad. Like, there's definitely matchups where Dig is nice to have. Like, you're not beating Tickaton without Dig. You're not beating Carbink without Dig. But I think Night Slash could be viable. I think Gligar, it could see play just because, kind of the Corviknight theorem, where even though its moveset isn't great, its defensive typing is unreal. Its defensive typing is absolutely crazy. And just that by itself will probably give it some kind of play. Next, let's take a look at Acid. Acid is getting its energy generation increased. Now, this is something that is going to be a little bit interesting to see how this goes. Because Acid currently is 6-5. So 3 damage per turn, 2.5 energy per turn. The estimate is that Acid becomes Shadow Claw. Now this is an ambitious estimate, going to 6-8. So it would be a +3 in energy. That would make Acid a poison type Shadow Claw clone. So we're going to sim assuming this, but know that this information is not fully known yet. This is our best guess. But all we have is that energy generation is increased. The rumor mill says it'll be a Shadow Claw clone. But obviously, we'll have to see if that ends up working out. So we can go back to the ranks. Acid. I think this will also show Acid Spray. So what I'll have to do is go to Moves and then go to Moveset Explorer. And then I can click Acid. But the one that I do want to take a look at here, Credilli, Dragalge. Let's take a look. I guess we could take a look at Grimer as well. Grimer does already have Poison Jab. Oh, Tentacruel. Victory Bell. So, this will be interesting. Either way, we will start with Credilli, though. Credilli, you have a few new wins. Wheezing, Guzzlord, but you're dropping Charja, Corsola, Furret, and Wigglytuff. This is a better overall average, but a lesser win rate. You're dropping Dugong, Dusclops, Jellicent. The Lapras drop is a really unfortunate one. In the 2s, oh wow. In the 2s, it's looking markedly better. There's a lot of pickups here. Granted, these could potentially be like sim era situations where the sim is going for grass knots instead of rock tombs. So we can just sim it straight rock tomb and see as well. Even straight rock tomb, Acid. So it looks like Acid, the fast move pressure ends up feeling a bit better in the 2s here. So I'd say kind of side grade territory. But like the Dugong drop and the Morpeko drop are unfortunate things for a grass type to lose. But there are a lot of, oh, the Superior is a really nice get. So I think there could potentially be room for an Acid Credilli in the meta. My frustration with Credilli was always the lack of the fast move pressure. Like, you're able to spam out the Rock Tomb, but even with Bullet Seed being fast, only having 50 energy moves, it still felt very exploitable from something like a Drapion. And obviously this doesn't necessarily fix its pacing issue, but it gives it more fast move pressure. So I think Credilli, Acid, probably more of a side grade, but still a bit of an interesting one. Let's take a look at Dragalge next. Although, honestly, it would probably run Outrage, wouldn't it? If it's on Acid, because it already has the poison damage. Okay. An improvement with the new Acid there, but not... Like, 17 and 24 is still not amazing. Again, a slight improvement. Acid is beating Registeel. But again, like, and your win rate is not incredible, and in the 2s a bit worse. So Dragalge probably side grade territory, at least for Ultra here. All right, next on our list is Bullet Punch. Now Bullet Punch, as we go back to here. Pangoro, it's staying with Karate Chop. It's too good. Machamp, probably staying with Karate Chop. Like, you could run Bullet Punch for, like, anti-meta fast move, but the pacing of Karate Chop's really hard to deny. And then from there, we're kind of on Scizor, Lucario, Hariyama territory. Fourth Palm's too good. Hariyama's not getting rid of that. So, kind of just Scizor. Now, Scizor, probably in a sim, really interestingly. But the thing to watch for as Scizor is specifically its bulk, or lack thereof. If we take a look, 1613 is very low. That is very low. So we're going to sim with the new Bullet Punch and the new Fury Cutter on both the regular and the Shadow. I cannot type to save my life today. My goodness. Okay. And the zeros, definitely some pickups, but nothing above water. It's a 1600 stat product Pokemon. It's not going to be doing amazing things in the zeros. Let's take a look at the ones. In the ones, we are seeing some averages above water here. 25 and 20, 23 and 22. So, Scizor is seeing some, like, marked improvements. And in the 2 shield here, 27 and 17, 26 and 19. So, Scizor is definitely going to be dramatically better. I think for me, Shadow Scizor with Bullet Punch is probably the winner. This feels like a really high skill ceiling Mon. It's going to be very difficult to play as it has only 1600 stat product, but it should have some very scary sweeping potential. Scizor is one that I wouldn't be surprised if I end up being wrong and it sees more play than I expect. But that's kind of where I'm at on Scizor. Now, Metagross used to be a Master League Titan, but obviously time has been very unkind to our good friend Metagross. And Metagross has been so severely power crept. And step 1, this is a step in the right direction. This is a step in the right direction. Dragonite, is that a tie with Landorus? You can tie with Landorus in the zeros. You're beating Solga. The Zygarde pickup against Bulldoze Outrage is actually a nice get. And keep in mind, this Bullet Punch change is a strict damage upgrade. Your pacing will stay the same, doing more damage. In the ones, oh my goodness. I mean, I know Yveltal isn't played much anymore, but you pick up Yveltal ones. You actually beat Lele. Palkia Origin, this has to be a bait. It is a bait. What if we take away baits? Okay, if we take away baits, it's a loss. So you can bait to win ones against Palkia Origin. But obviously that's kind of a fake win. In the 2s, Kyurem Black, and you pick up Rhyperior. The Shadow you still lose to, and that's the biggest thing that makes me say it's better, but by how much? And as we take a look at Zacian Crown form, you're still losing to Zacian Crown. Because you're only hitting with Steel for neutral damage in that matchup due to the added Steel typing on Zacian Crown. So Metagross, it's going to be more playable. But I don't think it's going to be like a top contender, considering that Shadow Rhyperior is still the best Mon, basically one of the best Mons that you can use in the entire meta. And it's still losing to Shadow Rhyperior in the 2s is really tragic for Metagross, because you're not losing by much, but Rhyperior has your number. You can barely pick up the regular here, but I imagine this assumes, yeah, this assumes no debuff on the first. If they break this wipe debuff on the first, you're suddenly losing 2s. So that's a 50% chance that this win is a loss. So Metagross should be better, but I'm not incredibly sold on it. Next up, Metal Sound. A pretty big buff for Metal Sound. Now, moment of honesty here. I didn't know Metal Sound was a 2-turn move. Metal Sound is a 2-turn move. So it's going from 1.5 and 4, which is pretty rough. Like, if we take a look at all of the 4s here, Metal Sound was the only 1.5, but it takes Metal Sound, I said Metal Snow, to a Powder Snow clone, or a Quick Attack clone, Vine Whip clone, which is a lot more in line of being a real move, and being a real move is a good thing. We like being real moves. Now here, I am actually going to scroll down, because for Metal Sound, it's being given to a bunch of things. It's being given to Aggron, Delmise, Berserker, Revavroom. None of these really inspire tremendous confidence. Like, I don't know who is looking at Metal Sound Revavroom and going, let's go, we're so back. Or Metal Sound Delmise. But For the heck of it, I will be simming Aggron. And we'll take a look at what currently has it. Ooh, Magnezone. Trash Worm, Bronzong. Okay. I have some things I want to sim suddenly. The list of mons that are getting it does not inspire me. Let's start with Bronzong. Bronzong, obviously, Psyshock buff from this current season. So, back-to-back seasons, Bronzong has been buffed. Let's get the Master League meta out of here. Let's go back to a Grey League meta. And what are we looking at for Bronzong? Bronzong picking up slightly more wins here. Picking up Blastoise. Blastoise as a steel fast move user is actually kind of a sick pickup. Corv, Dugong, Guzzlord, Tink in exchange for dropping Charja, regular Gator, Golisopod, which obviously will be on Fury Cutter now. So for Golisopod, I'll just switch it to the new Fury Cutter. Let's take a look at the ones. So a slight improvement, but not by much. Here, oh, that's a huge jump in average. You're still negative, but you're picking up a lot more wins here. You're picking up a lot more wins. You're picking up Annihilate. Somehow dropping Confusion for Metal Sound means you pick up Annihilate. Corv, Grumpig, Guzzlord, Malamar. Malamar is really hard hit by these changes. There's a lot more things that beat Malamar now. Primeape. Alolan Sandslash is a really sick get. It is the Powder Snow variant and Tinkaton in exchange for dropping a Fakemon, Golisopod, and Quag. Take a look at the twos. The twos. Again, you're picking up Drape's a nice get. Malamar is going to be less common next season. So overall, better. Still probably like a remix mod at best in my eyes, but it is improved. Now, Magnezone. Magnezone, I am curious about. Now, Magnezone, it was really tough to use this season. We really didn't see it ever get play just because the meta was so hostile to it. Shadow with Metal Sound in the zeros. Got Annihilate, Credilli, because Credilli just beat Zone this season. Guzzlord, Pekko, Sandslash. 28 and 17 in the zeros is a sick win rate. Its average is not great, so like when it gets stomped, it is getting stomped like Quag right there. Oh my. And granted, this is obviously assuming perfect baits, but 30 and 15, 31 and 14. Picking up Credilli, Guzzlord, Serp, dropping Tinkaton here just because Bulldoze hurts. Twos. 30 and 15, 26, 19, but underwater in terms of the average. So again, it's a very feast or famine mon. But obviously this assumes perfect baits. If I turn baits off, these win rates probably crater. If you don't get your baits right in the twos, you are... We haven't really seen a 3, like an average beginning with a 3. That is brutal. Yeah, so getting the Mirror Shot shielded into the Wild Charge is still everything for Zone. So with Zone's volatility, I can see it in like anti-meta, but that extreme volatility of if you get a Mirror Shot bait called, you kind of just lose. Double Iron Bash. I kind of put this in with Doom Desire, where will it improve the mons that are going to have it? Yes. Strict damage upgrade. It makes double Iron Bash's damage slightly less fraudulent. That is what I was attempting to say. Whereas double Iron Bash, you really wanted a little bit more oomph to it. Because if we go over to here for double Iron Bash, it was 50-35, which is a Dragon Claw clone. Whereas now with 55-35, let's scroll all the way down to our good friends 55-35, that's Weather Ball. So slight improvement there. It's not going to change Melmetal's matchups massively. So if you were already using Melmetal and like Melmetal, you just get a little bit of extra damage. Same thing with Doom Desire. Jirachi's issue is no fast move. Confusion is bad. it doesn't have a good fast move. So this helps Jirachi and sets the stage for a potential future Jirachi buff. But if we go over here to Jirachi's fast move is Confusion and Charge Beam. Neither one is cutting it. Crunch, chance to lower the opponent's defense is decreased. This is not something that's worth simming just because it's a chance at a debuff. But it's probably going to 20%, which means Drapion will be up to its crunch shenanigans slightly less than normal. Wrap, guaranteed chance to decrease, not increase the opponent's defense. Now Wrap, if we take a look at these moves here, Wrap is a very mediocre move. 60-45, that's an atrocious move. This move has the same stats as Ancient Power. Ancient Power, obviously really not known for its damage. It also does have the same stats as Bleak Wind Storm or Sandsear Storm, being 60-45. Obviously, Bleak Wind has a 100% chance at an opponent attack drop, whereas for Wrap is a 100% chance to lower the opponent's defense. So still not a move that you can really reliably count on in terms of damage, because at the very least, something like a Sandsear Storm, it's not a great move, but it can hit things for super effective damage, which is Wrap, being a pure normal move, does not have the ability to do so. So in that regard, I do think that Wrap is even a tier below the moves that it shares the same stats with. Now there are a few Pokemon that are getting Wrap as a move. Let's see if we can find it. Lickitung is getting it, Milotic is getting it, and Dhelmise is getting it. They are really buffing Dhelmise with moves that I don't think it really wanted. But let's take a look at Lickitung. The Body Slam nerf hurt Lickitung a lot. Lickitung was not a fan whatsoever. And I think this doesn't really solve its issues. We're going to sim Lick Body Slam Power Whip, the current. We're going to sim Body Slam Wrap as a moveset, because the big difference here, if you see this and start celebrating, is that Body Slam is 35. So you have really consistent pacing as Lickitung, where you can get there in like the 12 and then eventually having an 11 cycle. So it's pretty fine as Lickitung. With Wrap, that's 45. That's 15 turns to each move. So if you run a Wrap Power Whip, you end up feeling very slow. So we're going to sim Body Slam Wrap and Wrap Power Whip into the meta just to see what we're feeling like. And right off the bat in the zeros, I am uninspired. Those win rates, they do not speak to me. Let's take a look at the ones. And the ones, the average is close to 500, but it's still 20 and 24. And like Emolga, no one cares about Emolga. Let's take a look at the twos. And the twos, look at Wrap Power Whip, man, in the twos. 12 and 33, that's what having no pacing does to you. You're 21 and 24 with Body Slam Wrap, so that's its best move set, but I still leave underwhelmed by Lickitung. I'm not day one leaping out of my chair to use this mod. Let's take a look at Dragonair. Okay. Very uninspiring zeros, but that's kind of Dragonair. Ugh, Emolga as your only pickup here is dismal. That is dismal. In the twos, you're picking up a Gastro. The thing that I'm curious about is, does Wrap allow you to do extra Dragon Breath damage? I imagine the answer should be yes in a lot of matchups. It's like, if we just sim it with this, no Aqua Tail, what are we looking at? With no Aqua Tail, you're picking up Annihilate just by debuffing your way through it. So, it looks like there's a few matchups where you can have some Wrap shenanigans, but maybe less than I was hoping. So, I think it's a slight improvement, but we're still like, Dragonair is still in its same playstyle, whereas if you're playing it, you're double shielding it for Switch. And I think there's better mons that can double shield for Switch now, like potentially a Forretress. Milotic. Milotic has very much wanted a second charge move that wasn't terrible. Because Milotic is stuck with Blizzard and Hyper Beam. Blizzard and Hyper Beam are not like realistic moves, because if one of them gets shielded, you just lose the game instantly. Now, I'm not expecting Milotic to improve here, but I do like that it's getting a slightly cheaper move overall. Here in zeros, a few pickups, but also some drops as well by not having Blizzard. In the ones, like, you're better, but 9 and 36 is atrocious. I think Milotic is really holding out hope for Triple Axel. It's really holding out hope for Triple Axel. Even in Masters, it's only getting to 33.98. I just don't think that that's holding a lot of weight here. Next, we're going to be taking a look at Parabolic Charge. Parabolic Charge, energy cost decreased, and a guaranteed chance to increase the user's defense. Now, this is actually a really well thought out change. We take a look at, let's go over here. Let's take a look at the Parabolic Charge users. There's 3 of them. Thundershock, Thundershock, and Volt Switch. So Parabolic Charge currently is 70-50 with a 66% chance to boost your defense. So that goes to 100%, and it goes to 70-45. Now, why is 45 exciting as a Thundershock user? Well, Thundershock is 9 energy per Thundershock, which means that has incredibly perfect synergy with Parabolic Charge. That's 5 Thundershocks to a guaranteed boosting defense move. And 70-45 is actually like okay DPE. 70-50 1.4 is very mediocre. 70-45 is a bit better. Plus, as opposed to Dig, which is 70-50 with nothing, this is 70-45 with a guaranteed defense boost. So that's genuinely quite nice. And also, Volt Switch. That was the other one. Let's go. It was this tab. Heliolisk, Volt Switch. Volt Switch, 16 energy per Volt Switch, which meant after 3 Volt Switches, you did not have a Parabolic, and now you do. This is an example of really good game design. Figuring out a certain move that if you adjust it in a certain way, it makes everything that has it have a lot of their problems get fixed. Suddenly, it's 3 to the first Parabolic Charge, 3 Volt Switches. 12 turns instead of 16 is a huge difference. And it's 10, it's straight 10 for the Thundershock users. So I'm very, very excited about the Parabolic Charge users. We're going to go to single battle. First of which, we're going to the Ultra League. And you're going to find out why very soon. Belly Bolt. In the zeros, in the Ultra League, 31-11. A 550 win rate. Belly Bolt was already very bulky. 4,200 stat product. Now you give it guaranteed defense boost. Look at the ones. 33-9. That's terrifying. Let's take baiting off here. Baiting off, it's looking a lot more human. It's looking a lot more human. Like, it's definitely wanting to land a Parabolic in the ones. Let's take a look at the 2s. The 2s, 28-14. If we take baiting off, 23-19. So Ultra League Belly Bolt genuinely has a ridiculous 0 shield win rate. And obviously in the 0 shield, you don't have to worry about baiting. So for Belly Bolt, it's looking incredibly strong in the zeros. The 1s and 2s are where things do get a little bit bait dependent, as the insane win rates that you see on Simming are with successfully building up to the Zap Cannon, baiting with the Parabolic Charge, and then landing the Zap Cannon. Whereas if you fail the bait, the win rate does look a lot more human. So I think Belly Bolt is an incredibly strong pick, but its limited coverage in terms of charge moves and the fact that its 1 and 2 shield win rates do require baits, I think means that it's not quite worthy of its number 1 rank in the current Ultra League rankings. I still think it's going to be a very solid Pokemon to use, and it'll be worth preparing for Belly Bolt. But I do think that outside of the zeros, this Pokemon could feel a little bit like a Sim Warrior. It's Dedenne time, folks. And like, I've been very critical of Dedenne, because Dedenne has never had a meta in which it's been remotely good. It's always been routinely very, very mediocre. But if you take a mediocre Mon, you improve its pacing, and you give it an ability to fix its pretty middling stats with a defense boost, which is its worst stat by far, suddenly you have my attention. Let's take a look at the zeros here with Dedenne. Suddenly you're picking up Energy Ball Energy Ball Jumpluff, Lapras, Alolan Sandslash. We're picking up both forms of that, and Tinkaton actually goes to a tie instead of a loss. So this is another one where you have straight 10-turn pacing to Parabolic Charge, which is really, really nice. Mons do not want to be slower than that to their first move unless they have something really going for them. Like Azumarill has incredible bulk. Talonflame, Incinerate is just a busted fast move, so it's okay. But for some of these more flawed Mons, let's say, they really want that pacing, and that's what Dedenne now has. 29 and 15 in the ones is crazy work. That's amazing. Let's take a look at the ones here. The ones, 29 and 16, but a 504 average means that when it's losing, like against Superior. Oh, this is with baiting off, by the way. So the ones and the twos could actually look better. But like, look at this. I turned off baiting. And we have all these wins. If I turn on baiting, it gets slightly better. On paper, and granted, it could just end up being a ground meta and Dedenne doesn't matter. On paper, this thing is scary. I think this is really cool. I think Dedenne is really, really cool. This is, like, this 28 and 14, 66% win rate right here. I'm impressed by the consistency and how good the win rate is across all shielding scenarios, even when baits are turned off. Now, I think Diggersby is going to be a massive day 1 meta player, so Dedenne will have to be well protected against Diggersby teams, but on paper, Dedenne honestly looks pretty incredible. And Dedenne has good pacing, and I think that is the big plus to Dedenne. It is good pacing, and it can boost itself. But let's even take a look here. Let's give the meta a 2-turn head start. Obviously, baiting is still off. A 2-turn head start, we're still 22 and 16. A 4-turn head start, 25 and 20. Like, our average is very negative. And this is with baiting off. So, this isn't even assuming perfect baits. Perfect baits, the numbers look a lot better. Like, we go from 28-15 to 29-14. We had like 30 plus wins in the ones. So this is with me not simming. Yeah, 32 and 13 with perfect baits. I think Dedenne, that consistent 10-turn pacing is really, really nice for it. Finally, we'll check out Heliolisk. We're going to have to give it the new Parabolic, which means I have to type out the Parabolic name. I will also sim Heliolisk in Ultra as well. In Great, a marked improvement in the zeros, but still 19 and 26. Those are some nice pickups here for Helio. 22 and 23, again, solid pickups. Like, picking up Drapion is nice. Somehow it was losing to Lapras before. And in the twos, 24 and 21, but still negative. So Helio, I don't think Great League is its league. In the zeros, somehow Heliolisk before was losing to Blastoise and Lapras. It picks up those as wins. In the twos, 19 and 23. The Crest pickup, the Oh, Forretress has its old moveset, though. Look, the Forretress win goes away when Forretress has its real moveset. So its Heliolisk is better. I think there's probably just better electric types for it overall. Alright, next up is Goldengo. And Power Gem, I mean, it helps it versus Ho-Oh, but it's not, like, incredible. Next is Lunala getting Shadow Claw. Now, this is something that is going to help Lunala dramatically. Lunala was stuck with Confusion. We know Confusion is bad. But, speaking of bad, Lunala, Shadow Ball is its cheapest move. That is a definite strike against it. Can go to the Master League meta, and I'm gonna have to recut out Pokemon like Dragonite, Excadrill. That's not played. I'm being kind to Groudon because Groudon could come back with the swords. Yeah, the crown forms being a thing, but and this, we'll give it its new Bullet Punch. And we'll sim. 23 and 14 in the zeros. Definite plus here. Having two expensive moves in the zeros means that you're normally just going to be able to out-damage things. And Lunala is a Psychic Ghost. In the ones, big pickups, it's 21 and 16, so less convincing in the ones. And in the twos, 22 and 15. And as we take a look at this, yeah, negative in the twos, even though it's 22 and 15, means that when it's losing, it is losing. So it's a bit feast or famine, but should be definitely improved, which is nice. It looks like it has consistency into the Zacians. Let's take a look at the ones here. Ooh, it actually loses to both swords in the one. Well, not both. I keep saying both swords. The both crown forms in the ones, barely. But yeah, my struggle with Lunala specifically is what am I using Lunala for that I couldn't just slot in Dawn Wings? Because Dawn Wings, very similar vibes of Amon. So, in terms of Lunala, Lunala is slightly bulkier and has like 20 less attack. Now, Dawn never sims as well as it plays. Like, Dawn is simming negatively here when that's not how it plays, but I guess my... Oh, that is no baiting, that's why. Okay. But Dawn is never simmed as well as it is performed. But I think maybe just the Palkia matchup is the only thing. Like, having Moonblast, you have more consistency into Palkia. And specifically as we go to bulk points and Palkia, where is it? Yeah. I think outside of the Palkia matchup, I'm not seeing, like, you could run Lunala, but I don't see, like, noticeable differences between it and Dawn Wings. Because we know Moongeist is a delete button for everything in the meta. Yeah, I guess the only distinction would be that you could run it with Duskmane, because you can't run Dusk and Dawn together. I think that might be the only benefit. So, like, it's not bad, but I think Dawn kind of does what it does already. Skeletor's can learn Hex. Incinerate's just too good. Incinerate's just too good. Beedrill Poisonous Sting, I looked at it, and honestly, I left feeling underwhelmed. I simmed Shadow, I simmed Regular, and I left feeling very underwhelmed by Beedrill. Nidoqueen is one that I will take a look at, though. Nidoqueen will now be 5-4 to Fang. But the big difference there is Sting does no damage. So you're really able to spam these out a lot faster. But the big issue is jab damage could really add up over time. That was what Nido was really known for. Now it'll be outpacing things, but you won't really be doing any damage, is my worry. Like here, taking a look at this, and I'll even throw double nuke on there for the heck of it, but double nuke is going to be bad. Oh, I don't need a 1 there. You're not gaining a massive amount here from the change, at least in the zeros. In the 1s, you're again not really outperforming current Nidoqueen. And yet, double nuke Nido as expected is just atrocious. It is unplayably bad. In the 2s is the first time we see Nidoqueen above water in terms of win rate and actually meaningfully getting improved. So Nidoqueen looks incredibly bad in the 0s, very mediocre in the 1s, and only better if you double shield. Now if we think about Nidoqueen's typing, it's a poison ground type, and I really struggle to see reasons why you would use Nidoqueen even with this new faster pacing over something like Clodsire. Whereas Clodsire is very slow but has incredible amounts of bulk and can be a great mon used for repositioning, taking hits, where it really feels like Nidoqueen would have to be, basically any Nidoqueen team would have to be built around Nidoqueen itself. Now Nidoqueen, if we take the baits away, look at the winds fall off a cliff. Nidoqueen, oh my goodness, that is absolutely dismal. My goodness, yeah, Nidoqueen, it's fair to say, it's had its heyday, and I don't think that heyday is coming back. Now Tenta, I want to sim. Tenta can obviously run Sting, it can run Acid, it has all of these moves. There we go. Now I finally added the move. Okay. Tenta looking not great in the 0s. In the 1s, still not simming amazingly. I am on Acid Spray, so I could also sim it without Acid Spray. And then run like Sludge or something like that. But it's not inspiring immense amounts of confidence with the Acid Spray set. Like, we could run Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave, it is looking better. Like, you're still negative here, but you're a positive in terms of average. Better, but again, still negative here. And pretty bad in 2s here. But, obviously, this is not where Tenta is normally played. Tenta is normally played in the Ultra League. So, let's make a quick adjustment here. In Ultra. Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking. We obviously had to show the worst league first before we showed it in Ultra. Look at all those pickups. Tenta, my beautiful, beautiful boy. And Tenta can honestly probably run Blizzard too. I'll put Sting Scald Blizzard. Sting Skull Blizzard, 29 and 13 in the zeros. Sign me up. Skull Blizzard, 25 and 16 in the ones. You're obviously negative there. But if we take off baiting, that probably decreases. Not by much. Let's check twos. 23 and 19. Negative average, but those are some nice pickups there. Take away the baits. So yeah, in the twos, if you're Skull Blizzard, you're going to get outpaced by a lot of things. But overall, it's definitely going to be better. It's definitely going to be better in Ultra. So let's go Tenta. To me, it just looks like Sting is the better way to go over Acid. Like, you could run Acid. But I think for Tenta, I think, especially if you're going for the nuke moveset, you just want a lot of pacing. And that's what this provides, is a tremendous amount of pacing. So I think there's no wrong answer between Sting and Acid. I'll be running Sting, but I think if people want to run Acid, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Toxicroak, unfortunately, I looked through it. It's still not great. Surf matters on none of these ones. These Metal Sound ones, I can't, like, Lairon has Rock Tomb, so to humor my chat, I am gonna sim Lairon. Lairon, Rock Tomb. Oh, we go from 15 and 30 to 17 and 28. Good stuff, Lairon. Oh, I need to do Metal Sound 2. That's old Metal Sound. Never mind, Lairon. I stand corrected. Okay, we get 5 pickups. Azumarill, Dugong, Drapion, Furret, Skeleturge. Still heavily underwater in terms of average, but it is improved. 24 and 21, but again, underwater there. That's a lot of pickups, but that shows that, like, Lairon, in terms of typing, is Bastiodon. It's Steel Rock, so it's going to be very feast or famine. Steel Rock is so bad. And then in the twos, a bunch more wins, but again, you're still underwater. So, like, if you want to run Spice, you can, but this does not seem like... This does not seem like an incredible move by any means. Palmy and Palmo and Palmot. I think Palmot's the only one we care about. And I don't even think we care about that. Palmot. Like, this is going to be one that's going to sim very well. Because it's Brick Break Wild Charge. It's, oh, you Brick Break baited and then you landed a Wild Charge. Hooray. But I still am unconvinced. Like, it kind of feels like its peak is like as a spicy closer. But I think what you want it to do, you can do better with more Morpeko. Like 1500, that's... What is the Morpeko? Yeah, it's basically Morpeko stats. Like, in the zeros, 23 and 22, I'm expecting seismic win rates in the ones and the twos. 26 and 19 with a successful bait. Turn off baits, we're 23 and 22. But in the twos, 21 and 24 with baits, so it's negative. And without baits, 13 and 32. So we've seen some things that went negative due to no baits, but it wasn't the bottom falling out. And that is the bottom falling out. Like, if someone no-shields a Brick Break, you lose the game instantly in the twos. Went through these. Ooh, Gallerian Moltres getting fly. Now this I am very excited for. Fly is going to give Gallerian Moltres so much better consistency in matchups like Diggersby. We'll test Fly Payback and we'll test Double Flying. I think Double Flying is incredibly playable on Gallerian Moltres. In the zeros, Moltres does Moltres things. And Double Flying, there's some matchups that it has you dropping in zeros, but that is probably just a simulation error. Because what is it doing here? Yeah, you're just Brave Birding. And then what are you doing here? You're flying and losing. Okay, so that's just purely a sim error. So that Drapion loss is not a real loss. And like against Wheezing here, AP 33 damage, 45 energy. So basically these are fake, like, well, actually no, I stand corrected because this one doesn't have Brave Bird, does it? This is the Fly Payback one. I stand corrected. So that's why they're not Brave Birding, because this one doesn't have it. For some reason, I had the order backwards. And here's where the better consistency is nice. Like Annihilate, Blastoise, Dusclops, Furret, Jumpluff, Marowak. So both Fly Payback and Fly Brave Bird outperforming the original moveset. And, oh, that Diggersby 2s is so nice. You're no longer required to be a bait merchant to win that. So, yeah, I think you could genuinely run either moveset on Moltres, depending on what your preferences are. Obviously, Brave Bird's a cracked move. Like, Payback's only if you need Dark coverage, but you already have Sucker Punch. So, I imagine you're probably just going to run Fly Brave Bird there. But I did want to test both. And for Articuno, Articuno has other issues. Zapdos just doesn't have a fast move. Lugia gets Fly. To me, this is an update that could have been cool several seasons back, but I think this update is too late for it to matter. And that might be a controversial take. But Lugia, obviously Sky Attack got nerfed, which is really unfortunate for it. And that hurt it quite a bit. But we have to think about the meta environment that Lugia is being added into. For the 8th time today, I will get to remove the stuff that isn't played from this list and fix Ho-Oh. I really should have just had a tab for each of these, and I didn't, and that's my fault. Okay. But Lugia is being added to a meta environment dominated by the Crown Forms. The Crown Forms have only had, at the time of recording, their release at the Japan Go Fest. But they're going to be released as more Go Fest happen and Global happens. And they are a Fighting Steel and a Fairy Steel. So Lugia, it's strictly better, but the meta environment that is being added in, I don't think is a meta environment where Lugia is going to have a lot of success. Like, as we take a look at the ones here, 11 and 26, that's not what we're hoping for. Even a little bit. Okay, so I did have baiting off, so I'll turn baiting back on. With baiting on, you can pick up a few matchups, but Old Zacian is not played anymore. Rhyperior Shadow, that's if you're able to fly bait and then land the arrow. And Solgaleo, that's all with baiting. And then in the 2s with baiting, there's Florges, Kyogre, Mewtwo is not really a Mon. Primarina, which makes sense because Primarina has no stats, and Zarude, which isn't really a Mon. We take baiting off, but it's still at best case 18 and 19 and underwater, and several of these pickups are not real Mons. If we take baiting away, it's 10 and 27. So it's a strict upgrade. Like, you should TM Lugia to fly and just run Fly Aeroblast, but I don't think this is the meta for Lugia. Like, with with the Kirums existing, and let's see if we can find our good friends, the Kirums. Like, this is... Let's go to the 2s here. Both Kirums are just beating Lugia. So you're losing to the Kirums, you're losing to the Crown Forms. Everything that's good, Lugia is losing to. So it's a definite plus for Lugia, but I'm not sold on Lugia being back TM in a big way. And then finally, Fury Cutter Metagross, Fury Cutter Metang, and Kleavor. Metagross is running Bullet Punch, but Metang, there's been a lot of hype around Metang. Metang, I am lucky enough that I have a rank 2 Metang already built. And obviously we'll have to add Fury Cutter 1 here. But Metang has a lot of potential movesets. It can also run a return as well. I don't have a return one. So I'm hoping, selfishly, that the return version does not end up being preferred. Okay, this one doesn't have the new Fury Cutter, so I'll have to add that. I'm finally starting to catch these mistakes instead of having to just re-record the segment over. So that's a plus. Okay. Let's take a look at Metang. Metang, oh no! Oh, the return one is simming the best. I don't like the look of that at all. There are a lot of pickups for all of them. 21 and 24 for the Shadowed Regular, but the return one is simming the best. I think the argument that can be made for Metang is as follows. Metang has some really interesting wins into a lot of the popular cores from this current season. It's able to actually beat Shadow Drapion. It's obviously going to completely wall off Jumpluff. It's able to beat Lapras. We can take a look at some of the other shielding scenarios as well. 20 and 25, 22 and 23. Still underwater in terms of the overall average. We did have baiting off there, so I will turn baiting back on. And with baiting back on, slight improvement for the return one, but still not incredible. But I think that's basically the argument for Metang. Is Metang... overall, its win rates are not looking incredible, like they're about at 500, but due to its unique typing, it could be a really interesting breaker for a lot of the old style of teams from this current season. So I think based off that, Metang is probably worth a look. This is one that I'm really torn on. I don't know how this is going to end up, but overall, I think that Metang is definitely worth looking into. And the final one is Kleavor, and Kleavor is never going to be anything, at least until a future move update. All right, we have done it. We've made it through every single change that's upcoming this season. We're now over 80 minutes into this video, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching, and please do leave a like on this video. I do want to give a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.